Welcome. This is Designed Happy, the podcast where we talk about the human side of home design, remodeling, and new construction. I'm TJ.
And I'm Katie, and I want to share a riddle with you before we even get into what we're talking about today. Are you in the mood for a riddle, TJ?
Yes. I am.
You,
Does that feel really genuine? It's
I feel like
not.
the answer is no.
So I'm gonna feel really put on the spot to answer this riddle correctly. But in a vacuum. Yes, the answer is yes. I'm in the mood for a riddle. Live on the podcast, the answer is no. I'm not ready for a riddle.
Okay. Well, I
Because
think
I genuinely don't know what the riddle is. So I don't know it. So we're going to
like
find out.
so you feel put on the spot with a riddle, something that everybody finds hard. That there's like, do you what's your bar and your expectation for yourself when it comes to riddles that you have to get them?
When we're being recorded, I don't know. I feel self-conscious about it.
If it was a podcast about you being an expert riddler, I'd understand that. Or if you were like Will Shorts, yeah, he's the New York Times puzzle guy. I would get that. That pressure would be on. But that's not what you do. That's not your
Thank you for lowering the stakes.
your professional. Okay. So what can you make but you cannot make?
I don't even understand the question.
Oh, I'm so glad. Okay, see, I thought it was going to be too easy.
What can you make but you cannot make? All the people that are listening are like, idiot, just answer the question. It's so easy. I really don't know.
I want to pause to be able to hear all the people going, idiot, idiot, idiot.
Wait, I have a guess. Is it like, are you saying make twice because one time it's like not physical? Like
This
what I
is
want.
this is how riddles work. It's not 20 questions. Do you like that game? Is that more your...
No, I don't have the patience for it.
Okay.
Yeah. Personally,
Interesting.
professionally, that's my job.
I know. That's why I'm like, wait a minute.
Like personally, no, I don't like that game. I really don't know the answer.
Money. Get it?
I get it.
Because you can make it, but you can't make it or you'll go to jail.
Yeah.
Or be fined, or I don't know actually and I don't want to find out what the penalty is for trying to make your own money. But I started us off there because today we're talking here's what it says in the outline. Today it's all about the B word. Budget.
No, nobody could see the little spinny things you did with your fingers. People really need to watch this on YouTube to get the full
I'm gonna
effect
sit
of
on
the
my
whole thing.
hands because I don't want anyone missing out. I think my intonation got it there. Budget. Now I'm going to take us down rabbit holes because can you guess in my home growing up what the S word was? You are feeling on the spot again. Now you're making faces. Can you guess what the S word was?
Savings. I'm trying to think of budget related S words. Spend.
No.
Okay.
No, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
How many S words can I guess before the people listening are like, stop guessing, fella?
Idiot.
Now, what was the S word?
Well, it's a trick question because there were two.
Oh my God.
In my home growing up, stupid and shut up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like actual. Okay.
Not relevant to what we're talking about at all. Stupid and shut up. You could not say those S words. And now I feel like my parents say them all the time. Anyway, Shut up, stupid. We're not, it's not what we're talking about today. Today we are about talking about money. Did you see what I did there?
I
Because
saw
we're
it.
not, as far as I know, neither of us are financial advisors.
Nope.
Okay. So we are talking about money. Why? Why are we talking about this, TJ?
Because it's super important and everyone struggles with it. Why is it important?
Why? Why? Why?
It's a great callback. Go listen
Right.
to the start with why episode.
Yeah.
Um, you're gonna spend money on your project, whether it's a little project or a big project.
Okay.
And what I've experienced is that the earlier in the process you're comfortable having a money conversation, the smoother that process goes. The example that I give already all the time is if you have a budget in your head and you don't tell me what the budget is, I am putting on a blindfold and throwing a dart. The
Mm,
chances that I hit a bullseye are so low. The chances that I put a hole in the wall are really high. So I've mentioned Jerry Maguire here before. This is a help me help you situation. If you give me good information, then I can take that information and reciprocate with better work product.
okay. And still, and still, people are really like full grown, full blown adults are really uncomfortable talking about money.
All the time.
Yeah. So how do you, I don't know, do you make people comfortable talking about it, or are you like, we're going to talk about it regardless, whether you're comfortable or not?
Well, at some point you have to. You get to a
Mhm.
point in the process where it's like, you got to know what this costs. And then once you know, if let's say you say 0 words about budget and you
Yeah.
just say, this is what I want, and you tell me what you want, right? Which we had a whole episode about you're not supposed to do that. But we design all of your hopes and dreams. And then we find out what it costs. If that's not aligned with the budget that you have in your head, the only thing for you to feel is disappointment. You're going to feel disappointed. And the really hard part is after that disappointment, you're going to be sad because you're going to have to give up that potential house that you fell in love with on paper. You have to give it up to design something lesser. Now, it can still be cool, but you're never going to get that first house out of your head. You're not going to compare the revised house to your current house. You're going to
Mhm.
compare the revised house to the first design. That we've created context now.
Yeah.
So you're always going to feel like, even when I've talked to people that have had this experience, so what we're doing, what we're talking about right now, that's the heavy air quotes normal way that architects work. Maybe you talk a little bit about budget, maybe like, I want to design a house and I don't want to spend more than $1 million.
Yeah.
And, the architect says, okay, new construction costs somewhere around, I'm just going to make up a number for me to do easy math, $1,000 a square foot. It could cost $1,000, but that's not the real number. So that means I can design 1,000 square foot house. Right. So they design 1,000 square foot house. And that's the only budget conversation you've had. And now you've fallen in love with that house.
Hmm.
And if now we get to the point where we are talking to contractors, the people that are actually going to build it, and we say, okay, this 1,000 square feet that we've designed, what does it cost you to build this house on this property? And if it's $1 million, great. But what I can tell you is that's almost impossible because we didn't have enough budget conversation at the beginning. What almost always happens in that scenario is it costs 1.1 or 1.2 or 1.5. And now you're like, well, shoot, I don't want to spend that much. So now we redesign to get back down into the budget and you're giving up something that you fell in love with. That's the heavy air quotes normal way. You design something, the architect creates what's called a bid set. You send the project out to bid and then you learn what it costs.
Ah, okay.
Two thumbs down.
No, thumbs down on that. Uh, is there any part of that? I'm not convinced of this, but is there any part of that that is from the professional's side that is about, like, if you can only have that early onset surface level conversation and really not return to it, is that just about getting buy-in from someone? Is that about like getting them in at the lowest cost and then adding it on as it goes? Like,
Yeah, that is a strategy that some professionals take. It is not one that I like to participate in.
no, no, that
Um,
seems like it would horribly backfire.
well, that's why the reputation that our industry has is it costs twice as much and it takes twice as long. Because
I
that's that.
have heard that. I've heard people saying that behind you and your industry's back. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a thing, and
Okay.
I don't know if this is what we're going to cover today or in a future podcast, but there's for sure not today. We don't have time in the next 28 and a half minutes. No, 18 and a half minutes. 18 and a half. My
Shoot.
math was wrong. I, I forgot the zero. Um, to cover contract types and the pros and cons of different contract types and what you should use when. That's for sure not part of this. Um, but I guess the gist of it is um, talking about real budget conversations early is beneficial. So what's the difference between saying, I want to spend $1 million to build this house and having a real budget conversation? So my
Yeah.
contention is people listening are going to say, well, I said I want to spend $1 million. And the way I interpret that, because I've had this conversation so many times, is that's the number you're comfortable telling me. That's not your real budget. Everyone feels like the budget
Yeah.
is something that they have to protect. If they share the budget, that means the project is going to cost that amount of money. And
Yeah.
what they're removing from the equation with that thought process is that they control all the cards. If the project gets over designed or overpriced, they don't have to say yes to building it. So they still have all of the control. Now, maybe they need to redesign something if they don't share, and there is a real risk that we already talked about in doing that. But that's people are trying to protect themselves, I think, is ultimately what it comes down to.
Okay. Yeah. Because it, again, it sounds like people feel like they're on a fast moving train once they sign things, that the process is out of their hands and that this is the only part of it that they have control of. Mm,
Yeah, and the way we're all brought up, it's taboo to talk about money. So there's all kinds of underlying things that are related to this. It's not like you go get a raise and tell your neighbor, "Hey, this is how much money I make now." So there's still money things that in this country anyhow we don't talk about. We're not supposed to talk about, and that has a direct relationship to how we all talk to our home service professionals about how much money we're comfortable spending.
and if you have had experiences with people who take advantage of even knowing the budget that you're comfortable sharing, if you, again, based on experiences, if you uh, do feel like have a lot of financial anxiety, yeah, all of that makes sense. I guess how then do you I see this and I see what we do here at Designed Happy is kind of like working from the finish line back is sort of, and the benefit of having, you know, kind of all inclusive services, being doing cabinetry and architecture and interiors, and knowing some of the pricing for some of that really allows us to work from the finish line back, which to me again sounds way better and safer. I feel much more trusting of that process. Um, it Am I getting it though? Is it working from the end backwards?
Yeah, yes, for sure, absolutely. And you use the word trusting. That's the underlying thing here is
Yeah.
it homeowners need to get to the point of trust.
Mhm.
And there's so much that's baked into that. What's the reputation of the company? Is that a big company or a small company? How long have they been around? What's their web presence look like? What do reviews online say? Is it a very small company where it's one person who owns it and the work they do, the money you're paying them, they're working for wages. So if they get sick, they're not showing up and there's more variables. So there's a lot that goes into how quickly you can trust someone.
Yeah.
That trust is directly related to the speed at which you're comfortable talking about money. And some people just aren't comfortable. And it doesn't matter how many times I talk about it with them. It's just they're never going to get there. They want to do it we're going to design all our hopes and dreams and then find out what it costs. And that's totally fine as long as they understand the risk associated with it. The bad way to do it is to design all your hopes and dreams, find out what it costs, and then expect not to be disappointed if you don't go into that process eyes wide open. That's the dangerous thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say it's fine if you have a tolerance for heartbreak. If you like, it really is. Again, um, sometimes in my when I'm wearing my therapy hat and previously working with clients, uh, it feels really silly to say that we would have sessions where someone would the intervention, the work would be like, look at your bank account or look at that budget spreadsheet that you made and how good it felt. Before we started recording, I was saying I love talking about this because I was someone who um I didn't grow up with a ton of financial literacy besides have some savings. Have some savings and maybe give some money to an animal shelter. That was kind of it. And really believed that it was just something that came naturally in adulthood, that people understood finances and had confidence talking about it, and that is just not the story. And to experience that myself and to also experience how freeing and how much more clear and I don't know, really just how much closer it gets me to what I want to look at numbers and talk about numbers and name numbers up front. Um, I remember we had this experience where we were starting with a new babysitter in the neighborhood, and my Mark and I were like, or I think he asked well, how much are we going to pay her? And it's like, well, we're going to pay her what she says. We're going to pay her. It wasn't this guy. It's like, well, how much do we did it? Uh,
You don't haggle with the babysitter.
No. Well, when I was and, and this babysitter shows up and I was like, "Okay, so what's your hourly rate?" She was kinda like, "Ah, this poor high schooler." It's like, I don't know. What do you?" And I'm like, "Nope. How about we're gonna go. You think on it for 30 minutes. You text me what your hourly rate is." Um, and that it's just it makes I could pull into 12 more examples. I'm going halfway down rabbit holes here, but it just makes everything feel better. Just makes everything feel better. I cannot imagine going into something as large as a home remodeling or a new construction process and not having this conversation up front. For folks who are listening who maybe are really not comfortable talking and don't know where to start, what are some of the basics that people should be clear on and should be prepared to talk about when it comes to budget?
I normally talk about budget with 3 numbers, so it's not just 1. So,
Hmm,
it's what are you comfortable investing in the project?
okay.
What would you stretch to if it made sense? And if we found something extremely compelling that you were like, "Oh my god, I never imagined that, and now I have to have it," what would you be willing to, like, really push? But it's still like, you could find the money if you had to,
Okay.
right? So, we're always trying to design to the comfortable budget, but
Right.
then it's really helpful and when I say comfortable, I mean your honest comfortable budget. Like, if your budget's $100,000, don't tell me $80,000
Yeah.
because I am gonna trust you if you tell me that, and then I am not gonna draw things that I might have otherwise drawn if
Yeah.
I knew the budget was higher.
Right.
Um, so I always talk about it in 3, and I have found that it's helpful to facilitate the conversation that way, because when it's like, okay, it's not this line in the sand, the the answer in this business is always it depends. We said before, it's like because I've had so many clients that are like, this is the budget. And then we get into it and we're picking countertops and they're like, oh my God, that's the most beautiful piece of stone I've ever seen. And I'm like, that's awesome. So, like, we have a few options here. One is you cannot have that thing that you love and you could stay within the budget with one of these other options.
Right.
Or we could choose to spend more money and you could get that stone. Or you could spend more money on that stone, and then we can find other places in the budget to reduce so we could subsidize the additional cost of the stone. So it's there's so many layers to it, but if we don't start from a place of trust and honesty, and all of a sudden in the process you're like, "Oh yeah, that's cool. I actually have way more money to spend than I told you at the beginning." Well, then it's like, I don't as the service provider, I start thinking it's like, okay, well, are the other things that we talked about accurate? Like, am I thinking about this the right way? Do I need to rethink where I started with everything? Like, it just brings questions into my head that don't help us get to your goal.
Right. Right. And to go back a step like you as the provider and the professional you have to be the person who's at least acting most comfortable and confident in that conversation. You're the one who has to show up and be willing to ask and to, bring out those three different areas of budgeting, those three different areas to at least get someone thinking in that way, to get their brain uh to let it release from that one number maybe and to start stretching it a bit. But you have to be the person, you, TJ, you alone must be the person who shows up confident and comfortable to talk about it, whether the people on the other end are. And um that's the sort it applies to everything. It applies to like talking with teenagers, it applies to talking about other difficult topics that are not a part of this podcast, but it absolutely uh applies to money. There are just some situations where you have to show up and be the most comfortable person in the room so that people can trust you. So it feels like and it goes back to that fit as well of being able to trust the architect that you were working with, the designer you were working with.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Can I give the people a tip?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
No, we must save it for the newsletter or yeah, I
So
want to know.
so let's say that people have listened to this podcast and they're like, "Hey, cool, but I'm still not gonna do it." Like, because that will happen. Some people are gonna say, "Thanks for the information, but I still need to protect my budget, and I'm not gonna give the real number, and it's gonna be some percentage lower." that
Yeah.
it will happen. So I'm trying to think of a way that I could still help those people help themselves. So if they go back to the why episode and they do the 5 why exercise,
Hmm.
and they get to the real emotional core of the problem they're trying to solve at their house. And let's say their comfortable budget's 100,000, they could stretch it to 120, and they could really find the money if they loved something to 140. But they're going to tell the design professional, the contractor, whoever, 80, right? What I'm recommending here, the tip is don't tell them a scope of work and say, I want to do it for $80,000. Because the part that sucks is you're going to find somebody who says yes.
Mm.
And you, uh, everyone's smart, right? And you do whatever you do for a living. You don't do this for a living. If you did this for a living, you wouldn't be calling other people to help you at your house. You'd call your own resources to get it done. So while you might be very smart in your normal day-to-day life and very good at your regular job, remodeling a house is extremely complicated, and your normal skills don't translate. So you need people who have done this many, many times to help you have a good experience. So instead of saying, this is my budget and this is the scope, and waiting for someone to say yes, because you don't know if those two things, I'm touching my fingers together for the people who can't hear me. There's a
Bringing
thing over here and a thing over there, and they're coming in the middle.
the
So
budget and the scope.
yeah, individual homeowners really don't have enough information to know if those two things are aligned. So
Oh,
telling
yeah.
somebody a budget and telling somebody a scope and waiting for someone to say yes is a real, like, easy pass lane to disappointment. So
Mhm.
my tip is remove the scope of work from the conversation. Get to your emotional why and say, listen, I'm having a problem at my house. I feel embarrassed by my kitchen, or whatever the why is. I have $80,000 that I'm comfortable investing. I need your help finding solutions that can be done within that budget. So that if you're not comfortable sharing the real budget, that's another way to talk about it. But the really dangerous thing is saying, here is my scope of work. I'm going to give you 100 line items and my
Yeah.
budget is $80,000. Can you do it? Yes or no?
Huh. That makes so much why I want to go to, like, why do you think people put the two together? Why do you think people uh, uh, there are probably 100 reasons, but why
If
people feel like they have to communicate the scope too?
I have a very clear answer for this. I agree there are many other things, but I blame HGTV for most everything. W- Everyone has a false sense of what this industry is because it's simplified for television,
Right.
right? Like on a cooking show, if somebody is roasting something for 6 hours, you don't watch the episode for 6 hours, right? You watch it for 30 minutes, and they have a bunch of different roasts that they could take out. And I was like, here's one before I put it in the oven, and here's it 6 hours later. But on HGTV, it's like, here's the before and da 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 da. It costs $20, and here's your brand new kitchen. So it gives people a false sense of security about what this industry is. So people are comfortable saying, I want to do this thing, and here's what I think it should cost.
Mhm. I can't wait for our episode that just totally shades HGTV. I I'm so ready for that. Yeah, because it's forgetting it's gamified for that setting. The challenge is they have to work within that, or uh, and outside of that, that it's just a totally different context. Okay.
Can I tell, before we wrap, can I tell people my personal story about this?
Yes, please.
Because we're right at time, but I want them to understand that even so, I talk about it all the time. I'm very comfortable talking about it, but that doesn't mean my wife Kat is very comfortable talking about it. So we were doing some landscaping work at our house, and we thought, hey, while they're here, it would be great if we added on this other thing. We were building some stone steps and we were like, oh, the water doesn't really flow off our driveway that great. And we get a puddle. Maybe we should add some like decorative rocks to help with drainage. So we had talked about it and we're like, it's a pretty long stretch of rocks. Like we were comfortable spending, I don't remember the exact number, like $1,500 or something like that to do the whole drainage system below and then the decorative rocks on top. So we had talked about it. And then the landscape designer came over and we were talking about, hey, you know, this is what we're thinking about doing. And I was like, listen, we're in if you can keep it under $1,500. And she looked at me like, oh my God, what did you just do? Like, that's the worst thing. I punched a baby. Like it was the worst thing she's ever seen in her whole life. And I knew I was in trouble.
Yeah.
And the guy from the landscaping company left and we went inside and she was like, why did you tell him that? And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, she and I, we talked about the budget, but I didn't want you to tell him the budget. And, you know, I have all of this experience and I'm comfortable talking about money. And if I'm in his shoes, I want to know what the budget is so I can provide a solution that meets the goals. Or I can tell them, hey, listen, I understand what you want to do, but that's actually a $3,000 project and there's no way to do it for $1,500. Right? We could all save a lot of time, but
Yeah.
she's a normal person and I'm a weirdo. So she was upset that I shared it because she thought we needed to protect the budget and have him do what we asked him to do and then tell us what it cost.
Right. Right. Which not a weirdo in this way. This isn't why you're a weirdo.
Other ways.
Other ways. But knowing we're getting to time, I think like, yeah, the main message here is I think everywhere we could be having more transparent conversations about money, but particular to this process, it's really good information on how you're feeling with who you're working with. If it feels like your the information on what you can spend is the only thing you have control over, because you should have more control in the process than that. You should have more power in the process than that. And I might be biased, but I know a team that works really well to make sure homeowners stay in the driver's seat of their projects so they don't feel like their budget's the only thing they control. They're called Designed Happy, and you can find them at designedhappy.com. You could even reach out to, I don't know, talk about money. We like talking about money. Yeah, cool. Thanks for all the wisdom today.
I like your totally unbiased solicitation at the end.
I call them like I see them, TJ. I call them like I see them.
Oh my gosh. So I don't want to mess up your ending here, but well, I'm going to do it anyway. So what we talked about today was talking about the budget. The flip side of that is there's a lot of ways to pay for a project. That's not in today's episode. Everybody thinks money is the way to pay, and it is one way to pay, but there are other ways that people pay too. There's a whole chapter in the book about paying. So it's sort of an if-then. So if the budget thing happens one way, then you're probably going to pay in other ways down the road. So if that piques your interest at some point in the future, we'll talk about paying, and you can keep the old eyeballs in the feed for when that pops up and give it a listen.
All right, partner. All right. Great. Till next time.
We'll see you then.
Bye.